Well, in the history of Nigeria, we've never had so much money voted for sports. In the budget for 2025, as approved by the president, or as president, we understand 78 billion naira has been allocated for sports for this fiscal year of 2025. Do you see this being translated into infrastructure, like we've been told, and beyond that, laurels at the end of the day?
Yes, for me, I think, when it comes to do with laurels, from what last year, when Shehu Dike was appointed chairman of the National Sport Commission, it made it clear that Nigerians shouldn't expect something huge, especially when it has to winning laurels, especially in the next Olympic game. He said, his own focus at this point in time is to make sure he develops sports to be something that can possibly generate revenue, for the economy. That when it comes to winning laurels, that we shouldn't have a very high expectation at this point in time. I think for me, that's it. If you want to get something huge, if you want to change the narrative in sports in Nigeria, we should, take our eyes away, from winning laurels. We should look forward to see how we can put in those sporting infrastructure and making sure that the different sporting federation, they are well equipped to make sure that they actually bring out talent, at the end of the day. When the infrastructures, of course, are there and we have the talent that could go in there and be able to train. And then laurels, of course, won't be a problem because we know that we have capable hands that can go out there and be able to compete with the rest of the world and bring back those laurels. So I think for me at this point in time, the amount of money being put from the national, from the budget for sport, I think is very huge. Like I mentioned, it's actually a thing of motivation. We just hope, for proper use at this point in time. Laurels should not be the focus. I think for me, developing a sporting infrastructure and equipping the different sporting federation that we have in the country should be, the focus at this point.
The National Sports Commission will really go through tests in the next few months from now, and it has to do with the National Sports Festival. Remember, the Gateway Games were supposed to hold in November last year, but postponed to this year, Kingsley. May, we understand, will be the realistic date for a new sports festival, as of course prompted by the newly put in place National Sports Commission. A lot of stakeholders have actually come out to say this shouldn't have been, but there seems to be some strong reason of proper planning and integration of the new helmsmen in charge of sports into this aim at achieving what has been described as an appropriate sports economy.
Yeah, I think for me, what has also led to this, postponement of the National Sports Festival, don't forget, I think by then we have the Sport Ministry, which John Wanino, of course, was the head. He was actually the one who actually postponed it to January. But since there was change, in terms of ministry, where we saw the National Sport Commission being reinstated, Shehu Dike came in. I think that was also what prompted that change once again, to May at this point in time. I think Shehu Dike and his board really want to take a look at, the National Sport Festival and being able to also instill their own idea and make sure that, of course, it actually has something to behold at the end of the day. Because when you take a look at it, the National Sport Festival is just like the National Olympics. So it should be something that could possibly be attractive. It could be something that could be able to, of course, draw audience, all over the world down here to Nigeria. I think that's what they're trying to do at this point in time. Secondly, well, I came to understand that some of the sporting facilities in Ogun State are not equipped enough. There's still a lot to be done to make sure that whenever the athlete comes in, they have a proper welfare, and all of that. It's not good that we're competing, the athletes will be competing in a dilapidated facility. That would be very, very bad. You talk about the athlete, they need a bed space, of course, to stay. They need proper place, to stay to make sure that they compete in a healthy condition. So all of this, being put in place, I think that's what has actually prompted the postponement once again of the National Sport Festival. But we hope come May that everything will be in place, for this one to take place.
Well, let's hope that there will be no further postponement of the Gateway Games from November to May, and let's hope that May will be realistic under the new leadership of Shehu Dike as the head of the National Sports Commission. And talking about the National Sports Festival, Kingsley, it is supposed to be a breeding ground for future athletes for the country. Is this still in place?
Definitely. It is, but, it has not really lived up to expectation. I think we could mention some more athletes who have actually gotten prominence, from this National Sports Festival. Lots of people actually, came out of here. You talk about the likes of Rutu Soro. these are athletes that have benefited from the National Sports, Festival. But we expect the National Sports Festival to be a ground, just like you mentioned, that can unearth much talent. But that has not always been the case. Most of the time, whenever we see these athletes come to compete, they go back home and nobody hears about them anymore. There is no proper ground, of course, to continue to educate them or for them to train and get themselves, very much strengthened to compete on the global scene. There is no laid-down plan, to follow up this athlete down to their homes to make sure that, of course, they are proper means of tracking them and making sure that they keep on doing what they are supposed to do to get themselves fit. And for me, I think that's what the organizers of the National Sport Festival, I won't just say the organizers, the different sporting federation also talk about the sport ministry that was there. Now we have the National Sport Commission. I think they have failed, in that aspect. Just few athletes are being able to be sported, whenever the National Sport Festival takes place. But for me, in the last 3 to 4 years, I don't think we've actually spotted talent, from the National Sports Festival. It's just athlete they come and compete and go back home, and nothing else, of course, we've heard, from them. So at this point in time, I think the purpose of the National Sports Festival has not really, been realistic at this point in time. It's supposed to be a ground where we get in talent, put them into the sporting federation, and there should be a laid down plan on how to grow these athletes in terms of their welfare and making sure that they be well trained. But at the end of the day, we do not see it. We hope that the plans of Shehu Duko will also cover this area as well, because when you talk about sporting talent, this is where you have to start sporting the talent. We understand school sports, of course, to return, and all of that, but this is where you tend to spot out the talent to make sure that, of course, you get those that can compete for us at the global scene.